think it's not a simple question to think about, and I don't. I think it would be inaccurate if I was to say yes, religion is the cause of intolerance, or religious intolerance is a big problem. Full stop. I think it would also be inaccurate for me to say no, religious intolerance is not a problem. And I think that, whilst that might sound obvious, I think that there are lots of people on both sides of the argument who will say that religion is only bad, that religion is the cause of intolerance, that religion is the cause of violence, discrimination, that certain religious groups oppress women. It would be equally untrue to say that religion is the cause of all the good things in the world and there are no problems. Life is much more complicated, I think, than either of those views. I think the first thing to say is that perhaps religion is unique in one respect, and that's not because of the nature of churches or mosques or temples. I think that's because of the power of belief. I think whether it's politically inspired belief or religious belief, the power of belief has the power to help people to act. Belief has the power to justify intolerance, but it also has the power to inspire movements for social justice and peace. And I think religious belief is perhaps at the heart of this, because whether people are believers or not is a personal, private decision, absolutely. Having said that, because all religions in their different ways are talking not just about beliefs about how we should structure society, but they're actually talking about some kind of connection with the divine or God. And they're talking about life not just in terms of the 70 plus years that we spend on earth, but they're talking in kind of eternal terms. And whether, as I say, whether we personally accept those ideas or not is not the point. I think the point is that those ideas are incredibly powerful, and so those ideas can, when they're abused, be used to justify intolerance, can be used to justify violence, can be used to justify injustice. So maybe three quick examples, very briefly, just headlines. For a very long time, Christian churches justified slavery. They did that by picking tiny verses out of the Bible and twisting them so that they appeared to justify the violent enslavement of Africans and the emergence of very racist attitudes. It's also true to say that from the end of the 18th century onwards, people of faith, and in many cases Christians, were at the forefront of the move to abolish slavery. I think another example would relate to attitudes towards violence in a Christian context. It used to be the case, and in some parts of the world it still is, where religious leaders, often Christian leaders, have blessed soldiers, have said prayers for their side and asked God to defeat the enemy. I've seen footage much more recently of Russian Orthodox bishops blessing the bombs that Russian pilots were about to load onto their planes to take down to Syria. Within Islam, we see a strand of thinking which is not Orthodox Islam at all, which justifies violence against non-Muslims. And we see in a number of contexts the use or the abuse of religious ideas to justify the oppression of women, to justify really horrific mutilation of women known as female genital mutilation. The irony, however, is that that is not a religiously inspired. That is not that the roots of FGM are not in a particular religion. They are more reflective of a culture, but religion is kind of used to justify it. So again, it's a kind of it's a yes and no answer. So religion can be the cause of intolerance, and still is. It can, however, be the source for dialogue